Astronauts like Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Brian O'Leary or Gordon Cooper, or high-ranking military like Lord Admiral Hill Norton, former Chief of Defence Staff, 5-star Admiral of the Royal Navy, Chairman of the NATO Military Committee, who said that there is a very real possibility that we are being visited by people from outer space. Dr. Norman Berg-Run, a mechanical engineer who has worked for Ames Research Laboratory, NACA, National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, and Lockheed Missiles and Space Company, now known as Lockheed Martin, said the exact same thing. There are hundreds of these people who have expressed that many of these UFOs that governments are studying are extraterrestrial crafts. There are literally hundreds of examples one could give. Mainstream disclosure is ignoring the high-ranking witnesses and whistleblowers and the fact that a secret or group of international leaders have been studying this phenomenon for a long time. What's really going on? The truth is, many people are starting to realize that we live in a very sheltered world, inside a bubble that people are trying to pop. We've been fed a lot of disinformation about discoveries that would change the way we view the nature of our reality and what it means to be human. Discoveries that would have us ask the deep questions about life, and purpose, why we are here, and where we come from. Discoveries that would literally change human consciousness forever. In the 1950s, President Harry Truman went on national television announcing to the world that UFOs are real, and that they discuss the topic at every conference that they have with the military, that there's always things like that going on, flying saucers, and they've had other things. There are millions of pages of documents to go through, and thousands of statements from high-ranking people that have been attesting to the UFO/extraterrestrial phenomenon for a long time. The mainstream media like the New York Times, CNN have been fed the world a lot of disinformation. The type of controlled disclosure we are seeing on this subject is probably no different. There is much more going on than what we get from the mainstream. Voyager mission to Saturn in 1980. The pictures NASA got back from were so mind-altering that they locked them up. That's what retired U.S. Army Command Sergeant Major Bob Dean said. He also showed numerous photographs from the Apollo missions that were never released to the public. Multiple governments have been calling for an international investigation as to where photographs, footage and moon rocks disappeared to. Norman Berg-Run's book, The Ringmakers of Saturn. He had to go through a lot of trouble to publish it, and had to leave the country in order to do so. According to Berg-Run, there are several large craft proliferating out around Saturn and its moons. Norman Berg-Run was a scientist and engineer who was part of NASA's Voyager program. He worked at NASA for decades at the Ames Research Center. In his book, Norman makes it clear to emphasize that these objects have probably been around longer than we have. He states that if there was any ill intent towards our planet, something probably would have happened by now. Today it's no longer a mystery as mainstream disclosure has begun. We are becoming more aware, and despite mainstream media, and the global elite having a lot to lose from the disclosure of this type, of the truth is leaking out. More awareness of this presence, and with this massive spiritual awakening that's happening, it seems that we will serve the humanity and in a better way and to understand itself better. Admiral Richard Byrd of the U.S. Navy pioneered explorations of both poles. After a multitude of trips to the Arctic territories, there is one Byrd narrative that sticks out more than the rest: his record-setting flight over the North Pole. According to an alleged diary entry written during his polar flight, Byrd came across a warm, lush climate with mammoth-like creatures and an ancient human race that had been residing within the Earth. His plane was commandeered mid-air and landed for him by some entity, what some say were Antarctic aliens, or what others claim were a race of entities living inside the Earth who intercepted his plane with saucer-shaped aircraft. Upon landing, he was met by emissaries of some previously unknown civilization, who expressed their concern about humanity's use of atomic bombs during World War II and employed Byrd as their ambassador to return to the US government and relay their sentiment. Ben Rich. We have things out there that are literally out of this world, better than Star Trek or what you see in the movies. We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do it. Ben Rich, 2nd Director of Lockheed Skunkworks. Vatican Cardinal. Vatican Cardinal, Monsignor Corrado Balducci, extraterrestrial contact is a real phenomenon. The Vatican is receiving much information about extraterrestrials and their contacts with humans from its embassies in various countries, such as Mexico, Chile, and Venezuela. The Anunnaki. Sumerian history is gleaned from archaeologic and geologic evidence. Written records are in the form of cuneiform tablets. Reportedly, some 500,000 tablets have been recovered, but only a small number have been translated. Much was also learned from translations of Babylonian records. Sumer was considered ancient in Babylonian times. Sumerians worshipped the Anunnaki, said to be the children of earth and sky, An, the sky god, and Ki, the earth goddess. Chief among them was Enlil, god of air. This pantheon was passed to the Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian cultures. This gods the Anunnaki came from the home planet Nibiru, also known as Planet X. Throughout history of mankind, we have talked about people visit us from other worlds. The Indian in every native culture talked about the star people in many different forms. The Sumerian people spoke of the Anunnaki that comes from the skies. And in every mythology and religion they spoke of angels and gods coming down to us from heaven. Could it be more than just stories? Did aliens walk with us? And will the final proof of this ever be disclosed? Follow up on Mystical World and find out.